Entering Kenmore. Doors will open on the left.
As you are flying home, I think you were over the Atlantic Ocean as this news dropped. The Red Sox signed left-handed starter Ranger Suarez to a 5-year, $30 million contract. It's an interesting signing because I think we came into this offseason, we knew we needed a number 2. And for a while, we were heading into next season being like, is Sonny Gray really the number 2? So they do go out and they address the rotation and kind of bolster that staff. But one of the most interesting things to me about this deal is it's not the typical build from a starter you would see Craig Breslow target. He's 6'1", like 215 or something like that. And typically he goes, so typically he goes after those Garrett Crochet, those Peyton Tolley builds where they're like 6'5", 250. So a bit of an interesting deal here. One that I think I like a lot. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I was off the coast of Greenland, soon to be America's Greenland, obviously. I honestly, so I didn't even get the text or I didn't get the notification first because my Wi-Fi was being weird, but I got a bunch of texts and I was like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Because we come on here every 10 or so days since the off season started and largely nothing. And I go to France for 1 week, and Craig Breslow decides to lose Alex Bregman and then sign Ranger Suarez. It really is something that they just chose to do their only 2 moves of the offseason while I was across the pond, as they say, in the New York City of Europe, Paris, France, and that is derogatory.
Yeah, I know you weren't a big fan of France in general, which we can definitely unpack as this episode unfolds. But going back to Suarez, it's interesting because you wanted to see them spend money. Like they were the last team to sign a free agent. But I also don't know how thrilled the vast majority of Red Sox fans are when you're bolstering your rotation, but you're not seemingly doing nothing to address your offense that is now missing Alex Bregman. And if the offseason ended today, the Red Sox head into spring training with this team, I think there's the Seattle Mariners of the East. Like that's just, and the Mariners have a better offense right now on paper.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's hard for me to feel super confident if this is the final team.
No, and it's like we kind of heard in the Bregman fallout, they're like, oh, they're going heavy run prevention now. Mm-hmm. Like that's where they're pivoting to. Like they're talking big arms, and like the guys, Bradfo said, like the guys I'm hearing are like legitimate 1Bs, which is their own words for how they said they were going to attack the off season. So like they should be looking at legitimate 1Bs. And I know when we did the Sonny Gray emergency episode, we were like, is this really the number 2? And we kind of were talking through it and it was like, okay, like he's not the 1B or 1A or whatever you want to call it to Garrett Crochet, but like you kind of started to rationalize it in your head. Like, okay, he's kind of the reverse Lucas Giolito. The peripherals look a lot better than the surface numbers look like they view him. And that's how we've all started viewing things, is in how they view it, because this front office doesn't view everything the same way that a normal person would. And they don't give a shit that they don't do that. But this is the true 1B to Crochet's 1A, or again, however you want to put it. Like you said, he doesn't check off a lot of the normal boxes that we see in a Breslow target. Like you said, 6'1", 217, 29th percentile extension. The strikeout rate is middle of the pack, 55%. Or 55th percentile rather. The whiff percentage, 24th percentile, only 22.2% in the fastball velo, was all the way down at 7th percentile, averaging 90.5 on the 4-seam. So it's just, it's not your typical profile, but the results really haven't, they've been there for Suarez. Last year, 157 innings, 3.20 ERA in 26 starts. He's also a beast in the playoffs. I'll get those numbers up in front of me shortly, but like they must see something in Suarez that they think they can tick up, whether it be the velocity, something to generate more swing and miss, something to tick the strikeouts up, or even something to help with the extension. Because when you're talking about giving a guy a 5-year, $130 million deal on top of paying the qualifying offer penalties, which is a second round pick, a fourth or fifth round
I
pick,
think fifth.
and fifth round pick, and then $1 million in international pool space. Like that's a big price to pay for a guy who doesn't really fit the mold, and also durability concerns. Like I said, 153rd innings this year was his career high by 2 innings or so. So we'll see how much he can give you. I mean, obviously, when you have a guy like Sonny Gray, who should be a consistent, I don't want to say 200 inning guy because not very many people are nowadays, but he should get you pretty close to 200. Then you know what you have with your horse and Crochet.
Yeah, it's a solid rotation. I don't want to take away from that. It's just the problem is losing Alex Bregman and pivoting to a starter and giving up the QO, where I was not at all confident they were going to sign Bo Bichette. Neither were you. But
No.
Once they gave up the QO for Ranger Suarez, it's like, okay, they're definitely not getting Bo Bichette. They're not going to give up another QO for, I don't even know how that works. So how would you lose a pick next year? I don't even know how that,
I don't know how that works. Let me see. Let me see if I can give it a quick Google.
Not the overall point of what I was saying. It's just
but you were right. They were never going to give up. Whatever
Yeah.
the penalty is, they were not going to give it up.
Right. So, all this to say, it's just where do you go from here on the offensive side? Because you still have holes. Now you have, like we were talking about, you have an Alex Bregman-sized hole at third base. You still have an outfield logjam. Like, are we really heading into the season addressing nothing else? And even if you do, some of the potential trade targets or the free agents that are still out there, like, I just want nothing to do with. So it's hard for me to be super excited and be like, wow, we have a really good rotation, arguably top 5 in all of baseball. But the offense is still pretty lackluster.
Just for the Red Sox to sign 2 players who rejected the QO, they would lose a second, third, fifth, sixth, and $2 million.
Yeah, so that was never going to happen.
Yeah, no. There was no world in which they were signing 2 guys with the QO. But like you said, it's the roster makes no sense. Like, it still makes no sense. They have royally fucked up this roster because now you put yourself in a position where, and I guess we can touch on final thoughts, obviously, but Kyle Tucker goes to the Dodgers and Bo Bichette goes to the Mets, and you have a massive gaping hole in the heart of your lineup that you volunteered was going to be filled by a power bat. Oh, well, we got Wilson Contreras, and we think that with the launch angle and this, that, and the air pull rate, his power is going to tick up. Sure. Fine. I talked about it on the last episode. Is there a guy in this lineup that opposing teams take this big fat Sharpie that I've been fiddling with in my hands for some reason and circle him and say, this is not the guy that's going to beat us? No, there's not. The Yankees example I gave on the last episode. The rest of that lineup sucks. Like, actually sucks. But they have Aaron Judge where they can go. That's the one. Not going to beat us. And the Red Sox just don't have that, and they continue to not have that. And now when you look at the way that the roster is constructed, it's like, okay, well, you still have continued kicking this can down the world's longest road, being the outfield logjam. But can you afford to trade Jarren Duran now and lose his bat in the lineup? It doesn't feel like you can. So, like, there's been a lot of smoke around the Isaac Paredes deal, and it feels like the fan base is pretty split. Like, slowly, I think you're starting to see some people talk themselves into it, and then other people, like myself, will not be talked into it. I'm just not an Isaac Paredes guy. But you're seeing Jarren Duran get thrown around in these conversations, and it's like, okay, like, you trade Jarren Duran for Isaac Paredes, which, like, first of all, is not a 1-for-1 trade. So what are the Astros throwing in on top of things? And then it gets tricky there, too, because they don't really match up prospect-wise with you. Like, do you want Bryce Matthews? Like, it's another middle infield prospect, and then you're potentially blocking him out. He debuted last year. Do you go further down the farm system and try to target like a Calvarez who's 18? Then you're talking about trading one of your better players right now for Isaac Paredes and a guy who's 4 years away. So that's a tough sell too. It doesn't make sense. And then if you trade Duran, it's like, okay, we got Paredes, but we're still a bat shy. Like, right now, it doesn't make any sense. The pieces don't fit together.
The problem is, ideally heading into this offseason, we were like, they should trade an outfielder for a starter. Now the rotation is pretty much filled. In fact, you probably have too many starters. So could we see a trade there? I don't know. And it's also like, I don't want to give up a Connolly early, a Peyton Tolley for an Isaac Paredes. Like, I just,
Well, that's
in
just
no
never gonna
world,
happen.
like, absolutely not. And all of the rumors we've heard about position players who are available, like Eugenio Suarez, like, I don't even know who else. Like, those are really the two big names, aside from, like, I don't know, Luis Arias, I know, is still a free agent, but that's not happening. Like, where does he fit? And so could it be like some guy who's not on our radar potentially? But I'm leaning towards they're just going into this season with the roster they have.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. And it's like I said, like obviously you can trade Duran for Isaac Paredes and whatever else on top of it if you're planning on making another move to the offense. But then you have this big black hole clogging up your DH spot that you can't get rid of. Like everyone just automatically was like all off season, and I definitely assumed that it was possible too. But the Cardinals, like Heim gave him the contract. Maybe Heim's still a big Massa guy. They've already dumped more than enough money to take on the Massa contract. They were not interested in that.
No.
And so like it just makes it tough to add two bats, because then where are you adding the two bats? Like at certain point, I don't want to ice out Marcelo, so you're talking about him playing second or third base, depending on where the addition comes from, and then where does another piece come in? It just doesn't. Like
no one.
If they land one, like okay, like Paredes is your best bet to getting a home run hitter in that lineup, but like Donovan and Nico Horner, those are not anywhere close to home run hitters, and their profiles don't like change that much at Fenway either to make you think that the power is gonna tick up at all.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I forgot about them when I was listing the potential targets. Like, I'm just so out on both of them. I get their plus defenders, at least Horner is, and maybe you can put Meyer at third that way, but it's like you're asking me to pick between 3 or 4 guys that I just want nothing to do with. So which guy would I prefer the most out of those guys? I guess Paredes because of the power, but the defense is bad, and you just signed another ground ball pitcher. If you're going with Brian Bayo again, I forget the exact stat. I think Carabas had it. It was like 4 of the top 20 like ground ball rate or whatever the stat is.
Yeah, 3. I think it is Suarez, Gray, and Bayo.
Yeah, and I think when you open it up to 20, Crochet was like 19.
Okay.
So all this to say that you need a good defense behind those guys. If you're forcing soft contact in the infield, we saw how bad the defense was last year. Trevor Story, I mean, well, what is that going to look like another year at shortstop as he gets older? Now you don't have Alex Bregman at third. So are you putting Meyer there? Are you putting him at second? Are you starting Romy Gonzalez for 162 games at second base? Like, the defense, it needs work, and they said that at the beginning of this offseason, and they haven't addressed it really at all.
No, and so you're going to get Meyer however many games. You have Trevor Story, who committed the second most errors, or tied for the second most errors among all shortstops in baseball last year. You lose a Gold Glove caliber third baseman, and okay, you think Meyer's a Gold Glove caliber defender at second or third base or shortstop. I tend to agree with you there, but you get Wilson Contreras at first base. He's a fine defender, but like overall, your defense hasn't changed it that much, if at all. And unless you supplement that, like that's why the roster makes no sense.